Now, the topic of our keynote address for this morning is about innovation. The title is Growing Innovation and Building Capacity for Global Competitiveness, a KAUST Perspective. Our speaker had been the president and vice chancellor of the National University of Singapore for 9 years before joining King Abdullah University of Science and Technology in Saudi Arabia in 2008 as founding president. Please welcome Professor Choon Fong.
Highness and Excellencies, good morning. Let me begin by thanking GPCA, and particularly GPCA Chairman, Mr. Mohammed Al-Mahdi, for the kind invitation to speak with this very distinguished group. Is my slide on? Yes. Now, there is a, okay. What I'd like to do is to give an overview of my address. I'd like to say that coming to GPCA, and in particular Dubai, to discuss innovation and global competitiveness is like what the British describe as bringing coal to Newcastle, or in the Middle East, selling oil to Aramco. My excuse for doing so is that I'm bringing the perspective of a scientist, an engineer, a professor in 3 different universities, and a university president in 2 countries. I lived 30 years in East Asia. I hear the 2 countries mentioned, in fact, Singapore and China. 30 years in North America. I've been involved in the Middle East in the past 6 years, and the last 4 years as president of King Abdullah University of Science and Technology, living in Tulle, Saudi Arabia. So my talk is in 3 parts, and in fact it's going here. I will speak of competitiveness in a rapidly changing world. In particular, I will speak about playing to and building on advantages and moving up the value chain. And I use several examples from East Asia, Japan, South Korea, Singapore, and China. Then I'll speak of growing innovation and building capacity. And KAUST is an example of that effort, tremendous investment in growing innovation and building capacity in the kingdom. And I'll bring KAUST. I will speak of KAUST as an example of that tremendous investment. And I end with some closing thoughts. I'd like to start off with a quote from Sun Tzu, who lived almost 3,000 years ago. Even in a rapidly changing world, some things are timeless and don't change. And the quote is, you can see for yourself, know yourself, know your competition. In fact, this was discussed several times, mentioned this morning. Now, what does this mean for today's world? Let's see. Okay, I will ask the question, what is your technology product space? How is it relevant to the regional global market? I'd like to speak of, we think of comparative advantage. There is comparative advantage in this part of the world. Comparative advantage is enjoyed by access to certain resources that others don't have, usually related to natural resources, in this case, oil, minerals, in the case of Dubai, geographic location. So there is a, yes, I want to move on. There is this so-called comparative advantage enjoyed by the Middle East. There is also competitive advantage, which is built by combining different resources, primarily innovation, productivity, and building capacity. And the true competitive advantage is one that is difficult for your competitors to copy. In a rapidly changing world, one must leverage on comparative advantages to create and sustain a dynamic competitive advantage, because that advantage will shift over time. So let me speak about competitiveness in a changing world. To summarize, I think it will boil down to the points I show in this slide. Know yourself, know your competition. Identify your product, your technology space. Play to and build on comparative advantages and competitive advantages. And I like to talk of picking low-hanging fruits and moving up the value chain. And for this, I'd like to share some observations of what is commonly called the Asian tigers, the small tigers, and the big tigers, and their strategy for building global competitiveness. And if there's something in common, it is playing to comparative advantage, using comparative advantages to build a competitive advantage, and then moving up the value chain. So let me then move on to East Asia. Here's Japan. And the population of 128 million. There's a medium-sized tiger. Okay, GDP, 1960, 44 billion. In 2011, you can see a more than 100-fold increase in GDP. Now, what are the strengths of Japan? The technology product areas, cars of all types, including high-end cars, consumer electronics, and precision engineering. And Toyota is an example of the Japanese success. For now, for a decade and more, the world's #1 car maker in terms of production numbers and profit, and including high-end cars. It is a resilient brand. So there is Japan. Let me move to another one. Okay, South Korea. GDP, population 50 million. GDP 4 billion in 1960. 2011, more than $1 trillion. Again, more than 100-fold increase in GDP. So, some examples of success. Samsung started, here are the technology product areas, cars, shipping, shipbuilding, consumer electronics, telecommunications. An example, of course, is Samsung. Samsung is now rivaling all the mobile companies in the world, smartphones, including Nokia. It has displaced Nokia and is now challenging Apple. Here is, again, moving from the low end and up the value chain, and now to challenge the Apple itself. Now let me move to a small tiger. That's Singapore. Now, I have to exaggerate the red dot. If I don't exaggerate the dot, you won't see Singapore, because if you're on an airplane, in 1 minute, you have flown beyond Singapore. It's only about 30 miles across. Population, 5 million. Okay. GDP in 1960, 0.6 billion. 211, 260 billion. Here is a 500-fold increase in GDP. Now, what is responsible for this? So let me talk about it. The key, how did Singapore move up the value chain? It started with manufacturing, and given the small land size and the cost of water and all minerals and oil and so forth, Singapore now has built on its manufacturing capability and plowing now resources into financial services, medical services, medical tourism, and tourism. So this is the Singapore shifting from manufacturing towards, and still an important sector, but towards financial services, medical services, tourism. It's moving up the value chain. So let me summarize Singapore's competitive advantage. It's built on stability, good governance, a skilled and highly disciplined workforce, openness to talent from all over the world. And sustaining this competitive advantage is a deep partnership built on trust between the private sector, we talk about private sector, the workforce, the unions, and the government. Last and not least, I want to talk of the rise of the giant. China is a latecomer, and it started economic reform around 1980. Like Japan, South Korea, and Singapore, China started modestly and it's now moving upwards. So in 1980, that's the GDP. 30 years later, look at the GDP. So in 30 years, there is a more than 40-fold increase in its GDP. What are the technology market products? In fact, China, given the huge population size and the huge economy, will compete in various sectors. China has the advantage of, as we know, gigantic, low-cost labor force. And now it's building its competitive advantage. Where is it? It's investing in strategic infrastructure, investing in R&D, investing in higher education. So China is an example, a powerful example of leveraging on its competitive advantage to build competitive advantage. Now let me come on to really the second part of my talk, where it's more relevant to this part of the world. I want to talk about Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia enjoys comparative advantages. It has the world's largest oil reserves, and 70% of people are under 30. The kingdom is determined to move beyond the oil economy to economic diversification. So, and part of this, the strategy is to grow innovation and build capacity for global competitiveness. The kingdom has launched many strategic projects. I want to speak of one in particular. And the one in particular I speak about, naturally, is about the King Abdullah University of Science and Technology. Here is King Abdullah, his vision for cows, to connect knowledge, innovation, and economic development. And what did the king say? Oops. The university, he's the founder of the university. The university is a base for a knowledge economy that will serve to diversify the kingdom's economic resources. Those are the words from King Abdullah. Now, let me move on to the chairman of the King Abdullah University of Science and Technology, Minister Naimi. That's what he said. If you know the kingdom has plenty of oil, plenty of youth, that's a comparative advantage. And here's what Minister Naimi has to say. Our ultimate resource is our young people. And the challenge is to develop educational systems, training opportunities, to provide the skills for individuals to participate in a diverse, technologically advanced economy. That is the words of the minister. Okay, so let's move on. The minister is also the chairman of the university. So this brings me now to the cows, its vision and mission. Cows' vision, Cows is a graduate research university with global reach, aiming for global reach and impact. It's a university rooted in Saudi Arabia. So it's a university that only offers master's and PhD degrees, primarily a PhD university that will train PhD graduates. And how do we move? Cows, the mission is to advance science and technology, to research and education, to produce future leaders in science and technology, and to catalyze innovation and enterprise. Now, to do this, cows invest heavily in people, projects, and partnerships. It's an investment for the long term. We invest in people, we bring the top talents from around the world, and we give them projects anchored in science and technology. Projects that are relevant to the strategic priorities of the kingdom. And of course, to contribute to economic development, cows builds partnership with in the industrial sector. So let me move on to investing in people and projects. How do we invest in people and projects? Well, we encourage our researchers, our scientists, our professors, our graduate students to pursue their scientific passion, to reach for great heights of excellence. At the same time, we encourage our people to form teams to drive strategic projects in 4 thrusts. in water, water desalination, water reuse, in coastal desert agriculture, in renewable energy, and in the environment, and particularly the Red Sea ecosystem. I said we invest in people and we invest in projects. How do we invest in people? We ask our people to reach heights of excellence, pursue their best, be the leader in your field. We connect our people. We build teams in projects through projects. So through projects, we connect the leading scientists, the leading researchers, the graduate students through strategic projects in the areas. Time does not permit me to elaborate, but you will see them in the slides given to you later. So we have academic divisions and research centers, investing in people, investing in projects. So let me go to example, coastal desert agriculture. This is a project that integrates solar power, absorption desalination to grow salt-tolerant plants. It is led by a global team, Nina Fedorov from the United States, Gary Amy from Europe, and Ng Kim Chun from Singapore, from Asia. So here is a virtuous circle, we call, of integrating solar energy. There's plenty of solar energy in the kingdom. Water, we do it through solar absorption, through using solar energy to desalinate water, and then using energy from the sun, desalinate water to grow food that are adapted for the conditions in the kingdom, in the coastal desert areas. So this is an example of an effort in desert agriculture. The other is Chaos Catalysis Center. We have state-of-the-art facilities covering all major areas of catalysis. I think this is important to you. This is one of the best-equipped catalysis centers, not just in the Middle East, but in the world. And we have a whole array of top scientists and engineers working in catalysis, catalytic processes, and the analysis of reaction products. And this is a very important center. And I'll show you one development from this center. We have developed a versatile new high surface area silica catalyst support. Now, this is shown here. This has a high surface area and excellent mechanical properties for use in industrial reactors. Metals such as tantalum or other catalysts can be deposited on these silica nanoparticles and to perform reactions such as those used in the petrochemical industry. Now, I want to quickly move on, because time is short, to building industry partnership. This is important. We are here, Chaos is here to generate knowledge, to apply knowledge, but also to contribute to economic development, economic diversity. And for this, we need industry partnership. These are the industry partnerships, and you can see we have major partnerships from around the world, and I particularly want to highlight a couple of them. We build these partnerships, first of all, to expand opportunities, research opportunities, and also to translate our discoveries into practical applications for economic growth and economic diversification. So let me give you a key partner. Some of the key partners, there's Saudi Aramco, there's SABIC, there you are, SABIC signed an agreement with us, and Dow. In fact, SABIC is well ahead, is our first partner, and has put in place a major R&D center on our research park. So let me show you some of the areas that SABIC is working on. We have 5 research themes where SABIC works closely together with our faculty, with our research scientists, with our graduate students. Fundamental catalysis, renewable feedstock, you heard some of that again. Future technology, you heard Almadi's speaking about future technologies. Advanced materials for petrochemicals, and then modeling, simulations. So these are some of the research areas. Now let me close with a couple of thoughts. We speak of a rapidly changing global economy. The rapidly changing economy is knowledge-led, is innovation-led. But underlying this, it really is a talent-driven economy. I did not speak of the role of government, but of course government has important roles to play, just as the government of Saudi Arabia has made huge investments in higher education, in R&D, and Chaos is one example of the government's investment in R&D and in the area, and building capacity for innovation and economic growth. So the role of government, strategic subsidies, business-friendly ecosystem. I want to share, allow the thoughts. The global economy, as I said, is people-led. And really, to jumpstart innovation and build capacity, we have to embrace talent from all over the world. COWS has the best talents from all over the world, together with Southeast talent. We're working in teams on strategic areas that are relevant to the kingdom. And on the importance of talent, and a talent-driven economy, I want to end with a quote from Bill Gates. And this is what he said several years ago. For every one non-immigrant visa issued to a foreign specialist talent that US technology companies hire, 5 additional jobs are created around that person. And these are high-end jobs in technology. So I thought I'd end with this quote from Bill Gates. So let me come back to my I have one slide that was missing. The slide is that, to summarize, we talk of our building on knowing yourself, knowing the competition, playing to comparative advantage, leverage on comparative advantage to build a competitive advantage. And of course, ultimately, identifying the product knowledge space for competition. So thank you for the opportunity to share a few thoughts with you.